Before you agree to buy out your spouse and keep the house, I want to ask you something that might feel a little uncomfortable, but it's really important. Do you actually know what it's going to cost you long term? Not just today, not just what someone told you the payment might be, but what this decision will look like for you 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. And stay with me until the end, because I'm going to share one truth about divorce that people don't usually say out loud, but it could completely change how you think about keeping the house. And I'm also really curious. When you think about keeping the house, do you feel certain about it right now, or are you still trying to figure it out? You can just comment keep or unsure. I read every comment because here's what I see happen all the time. I'm Tammy Wallensack, a divorce mortgage specialist with over 30 years experience, and I'm here to help you make smart home decisions while you're navigating your divorce. I'm so glad you're here. Someone fights really hard to keep the house, and I understand why. It represents stability, it represents home, it represents keeping life as normal as possible for your children. But then, a year later, you're sitting at the kitchen table looking at your bank account trying to figure out how to make it all work. And I want to share something with you. That was me. I sat at that kitchen table. I know what that feels like. Trying to do the math in your head, wondering if you made the right decision, feeling the weight of it all. And that is exactly why I do what I do today, because I don't want you to figure this out after the fact, because equity is math and affordability is strategy. And today I want to walk you through what an equity buyout really is, how it works, and why planning this properly could be one of the most important financial decisions you make in the entire divorce process. Because the goal isn't just to keep the house, the goal is to keep your life working. So let's walk through this together. At its simplest level, an equity buyout is when one spouse keeps the home and compensates the other for their share of the equity. So the basic formula sounds straightforward. You take the value of the home, subtract the mortgage balance, and what's left is equity. Then that equity is divided, usually in half or based on whatever is negotiated, and that becomes the buyout amount. And when people hear that, they think, okay, I can do that, but this is where I want you to pause, because this is not where the conversation ends. This is actually where the conversation begins, because that number, that buyout number, is only one piece of the puzzle. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that people assume equity is just one clean number. It's not. There are a lot of moving parts. What's the value we're using for the home? Is it today's value or a value from when you separated? What mortgage balance are we using? Today's payoff or an earlier number? Has one spouse been paying the mortgage on their own? Were there improvements made to the home? Is there a home equity line of credit involved? Are there credits being negotiated? All of these details really matter, because small differences in these numbers can create very big differences in the final outcome. And if this isn't clearly defined in the agreement, it can create stress, delays, and sometimes even derail the entire plan later. This is why I always say the house is not just an emotional thing, it's a financial negotiation. Let's talk about how the buyout actually happens, because this is where planning becomes everything. There are 3 primary ways to structure an equity buyout. The first is a refinance. This is the most common approach. You replace the current mortgage with a new one and pull out enough equity to pay the other spouse. It creates a clean break. The other spouse is removed from the loan and from the title. And on paper, it feels like the easiest solution. But here's what often gets missed. That new loan comes with today's interest rate, which means your payment could significantly be higher than what you're used to. And now you have to qualify with your own income. So what looks simple can quickly become more complex. The second option is a mortgage assumption. This is where you keep the existing loan and take over the responsibility for it and release your spouse from the liability. This can be incredibly powerful, especially if your current interest rate's low, but there are a few things to understand. Not all loans are assumable, the process is not always predictable, and you still have to qualify. And most importantly, you need a backup plan, because I've seen many situations where someone was counting on an assumption and it didn't go through the way they expected, and now they're left scrambling. And the third option is an asset offset. This is one that doesn't get talked about enough. Instead of pulling money out of the house, you keep the home and give up other assets. That could be retirement, investments, or other financial accounts. And this is where I want you to really slow down and think, because sometimes keeping the house means giving up your future growth. And that trade-off needs to be very intentional. As you're listening to this, Which option were you originally thinking about? Refinance, assumption, or something else? Now let's talk about the part that matters the most. Before you agree to a buyout, ask yourself this: how long do I realistically plan to stay in this house? What will my payment actually be after everything's finalized? Do I have reserves? What happens if support changes or actually stops? Am I stretching just to keep something that feels familiar? Or am I making a decision that truly supports my next chapter? Because I want to say this really gently. The house can feel like stability, but financial strain is not stability, and you deserve both security and peace. And this is exactly why I created something called my Rooted Method. Because what most people need in this moment isn't just a loan. They need a plan to sit down, look at all the moving pieces and understand what this decision really looks like for them before anything is finalized. In many cases, I have my clients start this process early so we can map out multiple scenarios and give them a clear path forward. So you can see what each option actually looks like. Not guess, not hope, know. Because once agreements are signed, your options can become very limited. Let me leave you with something I want you to hold on to. A truth about divorce that people don't always say out loud. Keeping the house can feel like stability, but if the numbers don't support your life, it can quickly turn into pressure. You're not just choosing a home, you're choosing your financial future. If this is something you're navigating right now, just comment the word buyout in the comments below. I'll make sure you have the right next steps. If you're thinking about keeping a house or trying to figure out what a buyout might look like, I want you to have that clarity first. I have a free divorce home clarity quiz. I'll be linked below along with my guide, Can I Keep the House? And if you're ready to walk through your numbers and your options in a deeper, more personalized way, I offer a 60-minute Rooted Method strategy session where we do exactly that. Everything is going to be linked below. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing and watching, and I truly look forward to connecting with you.